Hello and welcome to your Thursday show with Gaelic Lives. It's preview time. It's Ulster Club semi-final weekend. I'm joined on the line by John McEntee, a man who knows this path so many times with Crossmaglen and big, high-pressure games that more often than not, John, you've won a lot of them. So um, you would need a podcast to cover your career alone for Crossmaglen, but it must be just great memories from those days. Generally,
Oh,
like
oh yeah, it certainly was. We were very, very fortunate. We came from, not having won a county title in Cross for 10 years to winning 13 in the trot. And out of the 13 titles, I think we won maybe 8 Ulster titles in that period when I was there. So 8 out of 13 wasn't bad going for Ulster. Um, and obviously, we were fortunate enough to go on and win a few All-Irelands in between that. I think possibly 5 All-Irelands maybe in that time. So um, yeah, it was definitely a very special time.
I think I was maybe at your first Ulster game. You played Burn and Cross, and I remember at the time we were in college together, and the whole chat was that you had been out of Marmagh for the first time, and I remember being down that day, and I think that was your first Ulster game, was it? Burn.
Yeah, it was.
What do you sort of remember about that?
Well, so Born were at that stage, were a club who had massive pedigree within Ulster, going back into the 80s and that, and they had players like Shorty Trainer, who was
Mm.
there, who was a phenomenal club player, and who I suppose through misfortune maybe missed out on a couple of Irelands with the down team in the early 90s. I don't think he
Mhm.
was in either 91, 94, but he was widely regarded as maybe the best club footballer in down. And uh, at that stage we would have went round as we did with Derry and Tyrone. Um, we went around a lot of club football in down, and we've seen a lot of football happening. So we knew exactly what Bourne were like. We knew what they were capable of. Um, Brendan McKernan in cornerback and that, and like they had a lot of quality, and we're only after winning a county title, as you said. Um, um, well, I didn't drink, but I think I'm sure we had 2 or 3, maybe 4 days in the drink at that
Mhm.
stage, because it was such a big momentous shift for us in CrossFit, and a large number of the fellas were, you know, only after coming out of the under 21 campaign. So
Mhm.
we were a very young side, and we kind of, well, I don't know if we thought too much about it. I'll tell you stories. We went, we played the match, and um, you know, it was just one of those sort of ferocious matches. It was really tough, competitive football. The pitch and cross was quite heavy at the time. It was a tough match to play. I can remember it not been a great day. I remember Francie Bailey picking up Shorty, and Shorty, could control the game. He was really, really good, and he had a lovely drop kick. Um, and if memory serves me right, they had a free, which wasn't on Shorty's favourite side. Um, it was on the right, or the left side with the right foot. Um, and they had a different player who opted to take the free instead of Shorty, and they missed it.
Rory Musson,
Uh,
maybe I think he
Rory
was.
Musson,
Was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
Rory, yeah, yeah. I didn't want to name him
Ah,
at the
I've
time,
just sunk him. I've just sunk him.
and that got us off the hook. You know,
Mhm.
now I'm not saying it wasn't a bad game of football. It was a good game of football, but I think we grew in strength after that game.
And what? It's a big question because you were so successful, and you obviously, John, you had so many players who played intercounty. But what makes up a successful group like that? Like, was Jim would have been the oldest. Colin O'Neill, were they the old guys at that stage in that team, or what was the age
Yeah, well,
profile?
Jim and Jarlath McConville. Jarlath was in nets. He wasn't, an orthodox goalkeeper.
Paul got hurt or something that time, didn't he?
Paul Hurty got hurt,
Yeah.
yeah, and he missed, and Jarlath came into nets and did exceptionally well. I suppose football was slightly different, Mal. Back then, sort of normal rules. There's none of the new rules that applied. We were a hugely big physical team. The pitches were a bit heavier back then, so winter football, things slowed down a wee bit. Um, you know, the days are wetter, the air is heavier, the ball doesn't travel as far. There's maybe a bit more contact, a bit more physicality. At least there was back then. And size mattered. We had a huge big team. Like you're talking Oisin 6 foot, Cal Short 6 foot, Tony and I 6 foot, Anthony Cunningham 6'3", Big Column 6'7",
Gavin Comiskey, full
Gavin
forward, was like one
Comiskey
too.
6'2", Francie Valia 6'2", I suppose. We had a lot of big men, Gary and McShane and Joe Fitzpatrick, Frank Shields. They're all big men. So that middle eight was huge, and we were able to dominate the middle eight quite well. And I suppose we were young and energetic and enthusiastic, and we had a real good crop of players come at the same time. But we relied so heavily, and probably more than people thought it realised at the time, we relied so heavily on Jim McConville's leadership, Donald Murtagh's leadership at fullback, Martin Callis' leadership. They were the sort of older stalwarts of the team. And whilst we had a great bunch of young fellas come through, without them we would never win anything.
What do you mean by leadership? Just like
when
pulling boys into lane, or just on tough days?
No, just on the pitch, standing up and being present. Like there was actually a game like we played. I think the first year, or maybe the second year, we played Mullahorn up in the pitch. We were awful, and they were really, really good. And it was a high ball into the square that Jim jumped for. He'd know Erin and never was going to win it, but somehow managed to manufacture a free out of it, and got that free, and we either won or drew the game. Like in Bourne, there was more times he came running out for a ball and dirty, heavy day, and he'd just slam on the brakes, win the ball. The collision would come from the defender, Jim would get his free, and we'd tap the thing over the bar. He just did that wee bit of cuteness.
Manufacture's a great word. Manufacture's a brilliant word there. but it is cuteness. That's what it is.
Oh, it is. It is, and I suppose those opportunities where you're young and you're energetic, you want to do everything right, and you're working really hard. Sometimes you have to think smart, but how you get a score, how you maybe calm the thing down, how you win the next kick out, even just some sort of general direction and guidance on the pitch that Donald might have shared with you. All them wee small things were really, really important to help us, because we were, as I say, in '96, I was 19 years of age. Didn't necessarily know an awful lot, so I needed that wee bit of guidance just to keep the thing on the road, and yeah, there were definitely special times.
And then obviously this weekend you have, well, outside of Kilcoo, the boys are walking the thing for the first time. None of them have experienced that winning feeling. That they've won county titles, but they've never won Ulster. So I suppose first of all, Kilcoo are playing Erin Gales on Saturday, and what's the sort of thought process with Kilcoo? Do you see them as massive favourites for the competition based on their experience, or is there a lot more comes into it, do you feel?
Well, they were favourites from the off. They were favourites before there was a ball kicked in the Ulster Championship. I think got into the championship before they won their own county title. They were favourites, and Scotstown were second favourites, if I recall rightly. So they're definitely a seasoned team. They have a lot of pedigree. They won All Ireland. They won a number of Ulster clubs. What would they have? 3? Would they? I can't remember.
They've actually only 2, which is quite surprising.
2, is it?
But they've been in so many finals, I think.
Yeah. So there's no doubt they're formidable, and it's a path well worn for them. Now the thing with them is that they're up against Erin Gales, and Bonner's over Erin Gales, and that was their first time last year, first time in many years that they won a county title last year, and they're back this year. So there's something to be said for that. They've gone and done back-to-back county titles, and I think they'll come into this with a bit more confidence than they had last year. They were caught last year, if I can remember rightly, with Scotstown. Scotstown gave them a good hiding, but Scotstown's a formidable side and a seasoned side. So that was the first year out of the blocks as such, and I suppose they were sent back home with the tail between the legs. I think it's going to be a different year this year. I think they're a bit more seasoned, they're a bit more composed, and I think they're going to give Kilcoo the fill of it. I think this year, of all years, Kilcoo probably struggled more in the club championship than they might have liked. They were really good in the county final. I watched that game. Really, really good. And they did what Kilcoo do. They scored, they had a great great goal chance. Sort of nearly walked into the net before they actually did walk the ball into the net.
Mm.
And was Bannigan centre back, did a really super job of driving forward. But I would imagine Bonner will have looked at that, and he'll try and keep them a bit more defensively solid at the back. And it'll be interesting to see if Kilcoo been 14 years on the road, which is quite phenomenal, whether they still have the energy and the sort of youthfulness in the legs that they've had, because that's what the game's built around. It's built around sort of pace and movement, and as the year goes on, that can be, as time goes on, not just the year, as time goes on, that can be a wee bit more difficult to deliver year on year,
And from playing on a team, John, that's quite, you were the same, you've walked that path so many years in a row. Mentally, how do you keep that going? Because every evening you lift the gear bag, you're away to training, you're away to, or does that not even come into it?
Mal, it's easy when you're winning. This is never a problem when you're winning. I think what the question will be asked of Kilcoo and Scotstown, maybe, because they're the two season teams here. They're the two teams that's going. I think Scotstown's maybe in the last 13 finals, and Kilcoo was in the last 14 club potential finals. So the question will be asked whenever they get defeated. How will they bounce back from it? Last year, I think we seen Scotstown going into the Ulster Club campaign and thinking things were going to go better than they did. But they met Kilcoo, and Kilcoo were phenomenal on the day. But they have re-energized their team and brought a lot of youth in. With Kilcoo, they're still heavily reliant on their senior players, their older players, and now they're serious footballers. There's a lot of ability in that squad, but if those senior players don't deliver on the day, is there somebody else that can step up? And it's hard to know. They have brought some youth into the squad this year, but I don't think they've been tested in the same way. And I think at the county final, I think it was the senior, more mature players who really did deliver on that day. So and of course that's going to be the case in Ulster. You're going to need your main men stepping up and playing well. Of course you are, but I think if you're on the road as long as they are, they're also going to need some of that youth coming through and really delivering.
Erin Gales have a wedding on this week, and I think there's a lot of lads are going to it. It's possibly out of the country. I'm not sure the exact facts of it here at the moment, but I heard chat that it's on Friday and boys are away, and maybe so that if they're home on Saturday, no matter how well you look after yourself in terms of diet and hydration and all those things, is that a factor? I don't know how many's involved at this stage, but if it's something like that, a distraction or something like that, maybe a welcome distraction.
Well, is there a player who get married, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, Tommy McCaffrey, he's getting married.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how many's away at the wedding outside of the country. And that seems to be the chat. So, in terms of preparing a team during the week, you've all that attached to it, or is it a welcome distraction in the fact that?
No, it's a complete distraction. It's an absolute nuisance. To be fair, you don't want to have you try and invite a wedding during your club season, which is really up to the county final, and anything after that's bonus territory. So, it's not necessarily a bad time of year to get married, and I suppose they've given consideration to winning the county title, and maybe potentially anything after this is bonus territory. But if it's out of the country, there's absolutely no doubt about it. It's a distraction. Having one at home, you can manage much better because fellas can head home, let's say, after the first dance, 9:30, 10 o'clock, whatever it is at night, and nobody misses them and everything's fine. But when you're out of the country, there's you have less control over that.
Flights and all the rest.
Yeah. But even staying up late at night, whether boys drinking or not drinking, all that type of stuff, how you're managing your day, how you're recovering, recuperating, all that type of thing. So there's no doubt about it. That is going to be a distraction, and probably an unwelcome distraction.
Kilcoo would be favourites in many people's books. Are they favourites in your book?
For the weekend, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they'll beat Erin Gales. I think that it's going to be tight. As I say, last year, I think Erin Gales maybe first day out, it wasn't a great performance of theirs against Scotstown, but I think this year, up until you told me that, up until you told me half teams were at wedding, I was kind of expecting.
It's all speculation, though. It's not really sure unless you're in the camp. You don't probably know, but
well, up to that point, I was sort of expecting Aaron Gilston running really, really close. Bonners, he's very organised. He knows the game really well. He'd have thought this thing through, and I would have expected a plan in place for Kilcoo. And I have that question in the back of my mind: can they keep going? Can they keep delivering at the intensity that's needed in this campaign? And I thought Aaron Gales would give them a good run for the weekend, but that did probably come out maybe a 1-point win.
Just before we go on to the other game, one of the things I noticed from the Kilcoo game, just Niall Kane, kickouts off his left foot, off his right foot, along the arc, and with the kickout arc, I suppose nearly hamstringing how you have a kickout plan. How important is something like that?
Yeah, the kickouts is huge. Now, see, Kilcoo aren't blessed with many big men. They have a couple of big fellas around the middle, and if you're going to have a long kick-out strategy, you're either kicking it into space for fellas running into it, or you're kicking it to big men who can either who can compete in the air or knock it down to somebody at his feet. The old rules really suited with the small arc because they were able to get the ball off quick, and their game's built around a running game, and they're exceptionally good at it. You seen last year they scored 5 goals against Scotstown.
They're scary, like.
Oh, it is. So that's the type of thing that's the type of style of football that they'll want to play. So I think they'll still look to get the ball off quickly. His weaker foot's all right. Under pressure, heavier ground, maybe a bit softer underfoot. I think there is a risk with that, kick out to the side. But if it's an uncontested kick, he'll kick it all right. I think contested kicks, he'd still go with his favourite foot. I think in the modern game, if you have a keeper who can kick with both feet, it's a distinct advantage, because you can disguise the kick out, and you probably get more kick outs off. Definitely much harder to counteract, but equally so, you need big men out the field. You need somebody when you're under pressure that you can lump that ball out and somebody can win it. Aaron Gales they'll know this, and they'll try and squeeze it. It's not easy it's not easy to counteract it because there's so much pace in that Kilcoo defence, or that Kilcoo forward unit, that if they get the ball off quickly into their defence and run the game, if they break the early press or the high press, they're in behind you very quickly and they can score goals. So they'll have to temper how they defend that kick out. They'll press to a certain extent. They might not press the whole way.
And on to Sunday's game, which is probably a difficult one because you would love to be in a scheme tonight watching videos of Newbridge, and you're obviously very close. But what is it about Scotstown, or is it too difficult a question to ask because they're still ringing in your ears?
No, not at all. Listen, Scotstown's a phenomenal outfit. I suppose that they're blessed with having a group of exceptional footballers, and have had for almost 15 years. The likes of Darren Hughes and Kieran Hughes, Shane Carey, Bryce got there. Like they're blessed with having Rory Baggins. In terms of goalkeeping, he's the Rolls Royce of goalkeepers. He can kick a ball 60 yards over a bar. He can pinpoint a ball to a man's chest, whether it's in the corner back position or 60 yards away from his own goals. And they have strategies around him. They're also blessed with, their youth. They have there's 6 fellas on the team that's on the under 20 squad at the minute for Monaghan. So they have a lot of youth coming through. They're a big parish. They're probably one of the biggest parishes in Ulster. And they benefit from that. They have a lot of great lads coming through. So they have fresh legs. They have experienced fellas. They have, McPhillips in the middle of the field, and McCarville. McCarville had a great year with Monaghan this year, Michael McCarville. So they have a lot of fires to put out. I suppose in the next game played them this year, we did really, really well on them. We ran them close, but we weren't good enough to beat them on the day. And fair play to them. The everything we threw at them, they were able to deal with it, and then win the game. So when you're coming in to play an Ulster club, again, we touched on it earlier. Scotstown, I don't know that they've won an Ulster club title with all those.
No, they lost 3 finals. The last
They've
2 is in
lost.
extra time, and one to Glen, and they've been close, but they
Yeah.
haven't got there.
No, they haven't got there, and that's something that'll be playing on their mind. Like this team are so good. They've been at the top table for so long that also the county titles are great, but actually what they want is to cement their place. A legacy for the future would be to win an Ulster title, and I think they have another couple of chances at it. This is 1 year where they have a great chance. Maybe next year, the year after, they'll have more chances. But whenever they eventually, Darren and Kieran and Bryce this year, they're not gonna be young and youthful forever. And when you lose players of that pedigree, there will be a period of rebuilding. But for now, they're to some degree they're in the pump. They're playing really well for the club. They have great lads around them. They are a formidable team now. There's no doubt about it. And I think they'll be focusing really hard this year on winning a provincial title. There's no doubt about it.
You spoke there, John, about Kilcoo, and they don't have the dominant midfielder as such, the high catcher. Newbridge are actually quite similar in that regard. Like, they would have loads of energy, loads of runners. They're actually quite like Kilcoo in the way they play at times. And they've obviously brought through quite a lot of players who've played at some level for Derry. So
yeah,
you touched on the Rory Wagon thing. Like, is that the biggest debate for Newbridge this week, or is there more than that? Just the fact that he can a wee bit last summer they were chatting about Sean Patton, about if you set off, Donegal carry the ball, if you push up, he goes over the top. Is that where Newbridge find themselves this week?
Well, so Newbridge have the work to do. It's Gary's that manage, isn't it? And
Gary Hetherington and Kevin Brady, it's like they're joint managers. So
okay, so that's Kevin that went to school with us.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. So I know Kevin's he's a fabulous footballer brain, and so he and Gary are going to have a lot of work to do. As I say, when we threw everything at them, Newbridge they have a lot of talents. This is 2 Derry titles in a row that they've won, and that's a formidable county championship to win. I think they're definitely one of the top teams in Ulster, and in my book, I'm going to say I would have thought they were favourites for Ulster. And when I was looking at them, they play very similar to Kilcoo. They'll know how Kilcoo hurt Scotstown last year, so they'll be looking at that. But to answer your question, Began is definitely a conundrum, and they'll need to figure that. It's one of Scotstown's strengths, and you have to be able to counteract that, and it's not easy. Now they have a lot of county men as well. Newbridge, they have a lot of speed and agility in their team. So, so to some degree, they're an up and coming team. Scotstown's on the top this while, and maybe people are thinking that maybe towards the end of the career. Although I would hesitate anybody to suggest that until you see them playing or try and beat them. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a game of 2 different styles. Newbridge move the ball really, really quick. They're very mobile, and their scores come from everywhere. But that's no different to Scotstown to a certain degree. Those older players I talk about are now the Donal Murtis and Martin Callis and Jim Combs of this world, where they're organising things, they're setting up structurally, they're giving advice and guidance, and they've lots and lots of youth to do all the running. The likes of young, Tommy Mallon and Max Maguire, and as I say, Neil McCarville and co. They can run forever, and it's really about how it comes down to, I think, between the 2 teams about the number of decisions, the good decisions that they make. I think when you're looking at the pedigree of Newbridge and haven't seen what Glen have done in recent years, haven't seen what Balahi have done in the past as well, and Ballinderry, I no doubt that they'll have aspirations to win an Ulster title, and I think they'll be going really hard at Scotstown, and then see what, if anything, Scots how they handle, that running game, that pressure game of somebody just constant running at your shoulders, people coming off the shoulder, and how you can deal with that. But Newbridge will have to deal with Bagan. They'll have to deal with Jack. Jack McCarron's a serious baller. He can win his own ball. He's very cute up front. He when things slow down, he gets really busy. Some think he might lack pace, but he's often not beaten to the ball. So and when he gets the ball on his left foot, he can score for fun. So Scotstown have a lot of ability, and Newbridge is going to have to decide what are their greatest priorities, who are they going to focus on.
Well, funny, that's what I was going to say to you. Like, Mark McGrogan has been he'd marked Sean Elliott, he marked Dara McMullen, that he would have probably picked out the danger man on most teams, and they've Paddy McGrogan obviously through Derry would be a really good marker as well. But from Scotstown's point of view, like, who is the key man to pick out? Is it Conor McCarthy? Is it Max Maguire? Or have they just got so many?
Well, Conor McCarthy has been.
I know he didn't play the last day, but he's
missed most of the season. Oh, aye, absolutely. He missed most of the season. I think, possibly with a groin injury. I would say if he's needed, he'd be playing. If he doesn't start, he'd definitely come on. He's an all-star 2 or 3 years ago. Mal, he's a serious footballer, and coming off the bench with a fresh pair of legs, he's going to cause trouble. So they will absolutely need a plan for him. In terms of the forward line, Jack's just, Jack is phenomenal, and Jack needs marked. But as I mentioned there, the last day,
that ball he played for the second goal against Niamh Conlon just across the middle, it was brilliant.
Yeah. He definitely needs marked. The last day, young Max Maguire scored 7 points. He was quiet in the county final, but Tommy Mallon scored 6 or 7 points. They're 2 under 20 footballers.
Yes.
And they were able to deliver in that performances. Like, you don't really want to leave them free either. You have then, a couple of other Maguires there, Matty and Francis, and whilst they might not be as prolific, give them an opportunity. They would definitely kick the ball over the bar. They have big McCarville, McCarville middle of field typically scores a couple of points in matches for every match. So if you take a guy off the ball, he's going to kick scores. But I suppose if I was putting nailing my colours to the mast on who you'd pick up, you have to have a plan for Bagan, because Bagan's been the top scorer all year from goals. He kicks 2 points. He kicked 2 points from play. He kicked 2 points for frees. So you have to have a plan in place to counteract Bagan. And I still think Jack's still the main man up front.
How times have changed whenever you're trying to man mark the opposition's keeper. Well, not man mark, but snub out or whatever way you want to put it.
But there's very few Mal that has somebody like Bagan. You go through a lot of club football before you see somebody that is as prolific as Bagan is, and has composed and his free taking and his kicking from play. So he is unique in that way. He's unique, actually, even on the county level. He's unique,
Coleraine played them in an Ulster semi-final. I think it was 2018, and it was on the day of the old rules. They completely retreated and just allowed Bagan to run the game. But obviously, it's different now. That'll never be allowed to happen. But and then from Scotstown's point of view, they obviously have to worry about Newbridge. Like, Newbridge won't be going down the road for a damage limitation session. They'll have to stamp their own side on it as well. Like, it's not all about trying to stop Scotstown. They'll have their own issues to focus on as well.
They will. Scotstown, I suppose, just to go back to the history of it, Scotstown have been very effective at getting to finals. It's just not been able to get across the line in some of those finals. So they know what it takes to win semi-finals. The semi-finals they'll be won, and they know what it takes to win it. I think I haven't seen an awful lot. You know Newbridge much better than I do, Mal. But from what I know of them, they're incredibly fit, and mobile and fast, and they don't necessarily rely on one or two players. They're a good all round team. They're one of these athletic sort of very able teams. But it'll be
You've summed them
interesting to
up.
see.
You've summed them up very well. And actually, in their 3 Derry knockout games, they could have lost all 3, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And that says a lot.
Yeah. So with this weekend, a lot of it will come down to whether they can get their scores and consistent scores. Like, over the years, you always need somebody in Ulster to score well in matches, and Newbridge need to have somebody who's going to step up here and kick, 5 or 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need Podium Grogan and others coming from the half back lane and tipping over a couple of points. And you can see that happening. You can see over the year you seen, and I suppose even the way Derry plays, you get halfbacks and cornerbacks coming up the field and scoring.
Mm-hmm.
But
like Conor Doherty is that man for Derry, but with them not having an out-and-out midfielder, that's where he finds himself. Like, he is their, he's right in the middle of that midfield zone. So he'll have to be thinking about McPhillips or Mihal or whatever way they're going, whatever road they're going down.
But that'll suit Scotstown to a certain degree. I think he probably will need to push forward a bit and try and get on the end of passes and score. But for Newbridge to win this game against Scotstown, they're going to have to keep the scoring down. If this goes into a 20-point game, Scotstown will win it. If it's in around that sort of 15 points, 14, 15 points, I think Newbridge have a chance of getting it across the line, but they will have to be very energetic. They'll have to be going and playing their full energy football from the start. And they can't afford Scotstown to be kicking 2-pointers through frees or long range shots. That, I think, that will cause them serious problems.
Interesting weekend ahead, and I think it definitely is there's the intrigue of the two different styles, and I suppose the variation that Scotstown have had. So, are you edging towards Scotstown, or are you indecisive? Because it depends on the numbers. And here, predicting games are a mug's game. Really, they are. But
yeah, I know Scotstown really well. I've played them over the years. We were fortunate enough. I managed Cross in 2015 when we beat them in an Ulster final, and that was a phenomenal game of football. And I was with Clontibbert when we pipped them in a county final a number of years ago. There, it might have been 2019. But I've seen them grow and develop, and I've seen the youth coming through this year. And I just know, if I was in Scotstown shoes, I just know that I would be putting everything into this Ulster campaign, because it's really important for them that they win an Ulster title. Being as dominant as they are in Monaghan really doesn't count for much outside of Monaghan if they're not going to win Ulster. So I think they're going to put a big effort into winning Ulster this year. They're going to be very, very difficult to stop. I just wonder with Newbridge, the couple of games I've seen them, they were immense, and I seen the county final, and actually we played a game again, Marhafelt, challenge match against Marhafelt, and I was mightily impressed with them, and they were able to beat Marhafelt on the way to a county final. So on the way to another provincial title. So they have a lot of strength and depth. I think they're a very balanced team. My only question over them is whether they have somebody that can be a high scorer on the day, that can get that 5, 6, 7 points, that'll win the game. That's my question mark over them. So if I was coming down to saying, I think I would like to see Scotstown win it. I think it would be great for them. It'd be great for Monaghan. And I would be personally delighted for some of the players who have given immense service to, Monaghan and Scotstown in particular. I would be delighted for them. It's a tough one to call. And I think it could definitely go to a draw. Yeah.
Wouldn't rule that out.
No.
John, thanks so much for your time and for your insight, and for obviously letting us into the Cross story earlier on. And folks, will be back on Monday for a review show. By that stage, we'll know who the big two are, and the ifs and the buts and the maybes, and where it was won and lost. and you can check everything out on gaeliclife.com. John, thanks very much for the chat.
Good to see you, Matt. Take care.